Another wild Premier League weekend is in the books. What's up, guys? We've got a lot to discuss. Set piece FC strike again. Arsenal restore the 5 point gap at top of the table. Manchester United find a way to win again. Spurs find a way to lose again. A lot to discuss at both ends of the table. Obviously, we got to start with the big one. Arsenal against Chelsea. 2-1 win for the Gunners. And yeah, I know I started this off by talking about set piece FC, and that probably maybe leads you to believe that I'm going to criticise them, but I'm actually going to go the other way and praise Arsenal's performance today. Again, it wasn't pretty. They did not dominate the ball. They did not create a lot of open play chances, but they went and won ugly. And the way that they've been playing recently, that's exactly what they needed. Some of the draws that they've had of late have been really ugly, and they haven't been able to get over the line. But today, 2 goals from corners, 1 from Saliba, 1 from Timber, and then they were just solid at the back. Like, Chelsea did create some chances, but it was only really towards the end when maybe Arsenal were just getting a little bit anxious and nervous. And once when Rice left the field, obviously didn't have a great game today. Rice, he did look pretty tired, but on the whole, it kind of exactly what Arsenal needed. Kind of just get that confidence back up. Obviously eased past Spurs last week. This was a different sort of test, and they passed it with flying colours. And like I said, winning ugly was the biggest thing for them. But obviously nice for them to have the 5 point gap restored. You would think that will be reduced to 2 if City keep on winning and then win that game in hand that they have. I just kind of hope that I don't really know who I want to win the league as a Manchester United fan. And it's always fun to watch an Arsenal bottle job, and I really don't have too many feelings towards City. My hatred really lies with Arsenal and Liverpool as a Manchester United fan, so I guess I'm probably leaning towards City. But it would be great if this was all just leading up, and then Arsenal were ultimately, whatever it is, they were 2 points clear going into that game against Manchester City, and then they went and beat Manchester City at the Etihad. That would just be a great crowning moment for Arsenal and Arteta. Like, it feels like that would just be the perfect way for them to finally go and win a league title after the close battles and all the second place finishes. I think, like, hopefully that if that's the way that it has to go, I will just have the ultimate respect for Arsenal, and they'll be doing it in actually the best way possible, and it'll be so much more satisfying for all Arsenal fans and for every player and member of that staff than it would be if they were just cruising to the league title like many people thought they would have just before Christmas. And also just crazy that they have only, before today, they only won 3 of their previous 8 games, and they still had such a sizable gap at the top of the table. It just kind of shows the weaknesses of the Premier League this year, but that's not taking anything away from Arsenal. On the Chelsea side of it, they're just ridiculous. Like, Chelsea just, I know, like, Rosinha's come in and he's kind of steadied the ship, and today was actually only their first league defeat under Rosinha. Like, that's impressive. He has, like, really steadied the ship, just like Carrick has done at Manchester United. But when I've watched this team under Rosinha, I feel like they really just don't create enough. They're not aggressive enough in their play, and that's why they've had some disappointing results. Like, again today, I just never really had any belief that they were going to create the open play chances needed to beat this Arsenal team. I know they got a goal from a corner, which is a bit surprising. Only the 4th one Arsenal have conceded from a corner all year. And outside of that, they've really only created 1 or 2 chances towards the end of the game when they were already down to 10 men. And that's just the biggest problem of all. The discipline with Chelsea is just absolutely insane. Pedro Neto picks up a yellow card for dissent, first of all. I don't know what they were all so crazy about. There was very little in anything in that goal that Arsenal scored. I don't know what they could have been so upset about and what they believed should have been a free out for them. And then to pick up a yellow for that, and then that absolutely ridiculous challenge to make on Gabriel Martinelli. I know Chelsea were kind of stuck and they were on the break, but he never needed to make that challenge as a player who was already on a yellow card. And even if he wanted to make a challenge, he could have been a way cuter about it. Like, he made a point of diving onto the ground and slide tackling, which was just absolutely ridiculous. And that's the ultimate reason why Chelsea are not going to be able to do good things this year, and maybe will fall out of the top 4 race. That feels unlikely, given especially the fact that finishing in the top 5 will guarantee Champions League football almost definitely this year. But I just don't see them really pushing the way I think Arsenal, or the way I think Aston Villa, Liverpool and Manchester United will be able to push towards the end of the season. And that's why when I did my tier list of Champions League teams, which you can go check out on my channel, by the way, I said Chelsea were just making up the numbers, and today was a great example of why. The ill discipline in this team is ridiculous, and I just don't think they create enough chances. Maybe they'll get lucky against PSG. Obviously, injuries have really plagued PSG so far this year. Maybe they won't have enough, but I think that this Chelsea team, there's just something wrong with it. There's something off. I don't know what it is. I don't believe that their backline is good enough. They're so indisciplined and they just don't create enough chances. They're just a very kind of in-between team right now. And that's why I think it's going to be a difficult finish to the year. I feel like they'll still have enough to likely finish in a top 5 position. But I would be very surprised if they finish above both Manchester United or Liverpool or Aston Villa. I'd be surprised if they weren't the bottom of that pack, if not even falling out of it. They just don't have it. And like Rosenior, I get he's kind of doing his thing, but I feel like he's got a little bit of a ceiling on what he wants to do, and I feel like he's kind of willing to be a bit too safe. Could be wrong on that. I know this is just a first defeat. I don't want to overreact. He's kind of doing all he can do, but I don't think he's doing enough to warrant him getting the job full-time in the summer. Moving on from that, I don't know, where do we go to next? Manchester United, Tottenham, Forest. Let's look at the bottom half of the table, I think. Across the weekend, obviously, Wolves had a great win. Doesn't really mean much there going down one way or another, but obviously great for them to not set the record for the lowest points total in Premier League history. That still, of course, belongs to Derby County. Congrats to them. Great win over Villa, and again, just showed the struggles that Villa have been having lately. I don't know what's up with them. They just feel that a little bit off. I don't know if Emery kind of maybe feels like he's taking this team as far as he can. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Emery and Villa this summer, especially if they continue this kind of indifferent finish to the year and they can't really make any serious noise in the Europa League either. Burnley obviously won a great game yesterday. They ultimately lost 4-3. It should have been 4-4. Honestly, it probably should have been worse than that because they were down 3-0 and they were able to come all the way back. And I just think it's ridiculous that Ashley Barnes was adjudged to have handled that ball. And even more ridiculous that if he had just laid it off to another player after making that movement, instead of taking the shot and laid it off to another player who'd scored, then the goal would have counted. Like, that role is just absolutely ridiculous. And I think the more I looked at the replay, the more it seemed like he pulled his arm away and controlled the ball with his body. So yeah, that was obviously super disappointing and just another highlight of some of the ridiculous ways that the handball rule is judged. I mean, it's obviously insane in the Champions League. I hate some of the ones we see there. I don't want it to get back to that level, which we saw in the Premier League when VAR first came in. But there's still some switches and changes that need to be made because that was a ridiculous decision. Burnley absolutely deserved to get the draw there. That should have been a goal, and it's really disappointing that it wasn't. But again, Burnley probably going down regardless. I mean, at this stage now, they're 6 points behind West Ham and 8 points off of Forest, who are in the last place above the relegation zone. But then Forest, of course, they lost to Brighton today. Obviously, you can see the goal early. Maybe the keeper can do better. Then they obviously come back with a great goal. Igor Jesus does great and a superb finish from Gibbs White. And then they concede just right after that. So quick to concede so quickly after that. Just absolutely devastating for a team. And like, you think, they're away, so they're already kind of on the back foot, and then they concede that early goal, and then easy for them to kind of go into their shell, but they are able to come back and bounce back and get that goal, and then of course to just concede so quickly after that, of course that's going to destroy the team. They did try, they huffed and they puffed, they tried their best to get back into it. Brighton were able to hold on, so difficult for them. And of course then we have Spurs, and they lost to Fulham, and again it was just such a slow, miserable performance in that first half, and then Tudor arguably waited too long to make the changes that needed to be made, because they did get better once they brought on Richarlison. But again, like, how much can you have faith in the changes that they have to make? They have a very limited squad, Tottenham. Like, it's tough to say, oh, he needs to make changes. Like, what changes are there really there to make? There isn't much. I know Richarlison did his thing and got a goal today, but for the most part, there isn't really much to change. This is just a very bad team. There's a serious lack of creativity within this team. There's a serious just lack of energy and motivation within this team. I think they might just have enough points already on the board. I think they might just have enough quality just to avoid the drop. But like, it's really dark times at Tottenham right now, and I don't know what Tudor is going to be able to do to change it. Like, you come up against a Fulham team, if you're going to fuck around against Fulham, they're going to take advantage of you. Fulham are not the greatest team in the world, but they will not let you have it easy. If you're not fighting as hard as Fulham are, you're going to lose the game. And Manchester United almost paid a price for not really fighting after going up against them when they played them at home a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, they were able to come back and get a crucial winner. But it just showed if you slack off against Fulham, this is a team who will never stop. They'll keep on pressing. They'll keep that foot down, and they will always keep on pressing you. So if you're not up to the level, you're going to get beaten by Fulham. And that's exactly what happened to Spurs today, especially in that first half, just not at the level at all. But again, they really didn't force Leno into enough saves. They did not create enough chances. And that's the biggest problem that you have to level against Spurs. It wasn't all on Thomas Frank. This is a team that just lacks the creativity. They don't have that quality in the top end of the pitch. And they don't create enough chances, which means they don't score enough goals. And that is why they're in the position that they're in. Like I say, it's obviously big for them that no one else won around them. Even the couple of teams that are above them in Leeds and Palace and Newcastle, they all lost as well. So like Spurs are still in a position where they like a win for them really drags Leeds back into the relegation fight. But the fact that they haven't won a Premier League game in 2026, like, that's really bad. There's something just really, really off at Spurs, and I don't know what is going to change. I feel like it's only going to get uglier between now and the end of the season. I just think they might just have enough to avoid the drop when you look at Forest, who are still competing in the Europa League, and you look at West Ham, who obviously have been better and are going to be more difficult to beat than a Spurs team going between now and the end of the season. But I think they might just have enough to get up, but I wouldn't be betting on it, that's for sure. Other than that, Saturday results, kind of what you would expect. Liverpool got the job done against West Ham. Eventually, they tried their best to blow it at certain times. They gave away some bad goals. They looked a bit shaky at times, but eventually they got the job done. They showed their quality, showed their class. Another goal for Van Dijk. He's like inching his way up the all-time defender goal-scoring charts. Another goal for Ekitike, looking like one of the brightest spots in this Liverpool season, which has obviously been quite disappointing. And yeah, just another nice performance from them. West Ham kind of showed their frailty. Some of the goals they conceded really, really poor, and just all-round quality wasn't great. But again, this is away at Anfield. I mean, I think I can cut them some slack a little bit for that defeat. The wildest one, obviously, we already talked about the Burnley and Brentford game, but then the Newcastle game. Like, after watching Everton against Manchester United on the Monday night, I was thinking, God, how have Everton even scored a goal this season? The lack of quality in the final third, the lack of creativity in the final third of the pitch. And then I'm looking at, obviously I wasn't watching, I was watching the Liverpool West Ham game, but I'm just looking at my phone and checking the score updates, and all of a sudden, goal for Everton. Oh, Newcastle can back it back. Oh, another goal for Everton. Oh, Newcastle back it back. Oh, another goal for Everton. Everton scoring 3 goals, like, that seemed absolutely insane. I didn't believe that it was possible. It was honestly impressive from Newcastle to be able to give up those 3 goals, and just hilarious the way that Thiago Barry scored that goal. Knowing him, he probably would have found a way to miss that chance if he hadn't have been fouled. I know it was going to be a penalty regardless of whether he scored it or not, but just such a funny way for a guy who has struggled so much to score to get a goal attached to him by basically just falling into the ball after being tripped was honestly pretty hilarious, because I wonder if he would even have been on the penalty. So obviously great for him to get a goal on the board, but yeah, he's still a player, just obviously playing with a little confidence, and I still wouldn't be confident in him going on and scoring many goals between now and the end of the season. But obviously a great result for them, and just another sign with Newcastle. There's just something really off with them. They just have not. I know they haven't really got the squad depth that they need. They haven't really been able to take that step up. This is like the second time they've got into the Champions League, and they're struggling again in the league. That happened the previous time because they picked up injuries in the Champions League, and that derailed their Premier League form. The injuries haven't been as intense this year, but it's again they're in the Champions League and they're fighting on that front, and they just cannot sustain their Premier League form at all. And I think that will change quickly, because I think they're going to go out in the Champions League in the last 16 because they're facing Barcelona, and I just think Barcelona are going to have a bit too much for them, and especially without Bruno Guimaraes. Like, Newcastle miss him so much. He is the heart and soul of this team. He is their captain, and he is their one-man wrecking machine. He is their leader. When they're low and they need that inspiration, that's what Bruno Guimaraes does. And without that, it's obviously really tough for Newcastle at this very moment. And I'm just wondering where they go from here. Like, is this going to be another bottom half of the season finish? Then they're out of the Champions League and out of Europe next year, and then they just get back in and then just rinse and repeat. Like, how are they going to be able to take that next leap? We saw it this year, obviously having to sell Isak. We're hearing rumours that Tonali is wants out as well. And you kind of just, and last season we saw in the summer, like, no one really wanted to join them. They didn't really get any of their top targets to replace Isak it was the second, third, and fourth option. Signing guys like Elanga. Thank God. I'm actually glad Newcastle made this signing so everyone could shut up and say Manchester United made a mistake selling Elanga. No, he really isn't that good. He hasn't got that much quality. He's got a bit of speed, a bit of athleticism. For the most part, he's a pretty average Premier League player, and that's exactly why Manchester United sold him. Fair dues to Forest. They got a great fee from him. Manchester United got a little bit more money for him. I think they had a 30% sell-on clause, so that was great for them, so I'll take it. But I'm just glad that all that noise is just completely washed now. Elanga is an average Premier League player, nothing more than that. Can't even get into this Newcastle team. He's competing for the most part with Jacob Murphy with that right wing spot, and he's in and out of the team, can't even nail down that position, and that kind of tells you all you need to know right there. But Newcastle, this is an interesting one. It kind of feels like they're in a position where it could just completely blow up if they aren't able to take that leap. And I've talked about this before. I don't know if it's PSR. I don't know if that's the reason why they haven't taken that leap in terms of their wage structure, because that's what they have to do to be able to truly compete at the top of the Premier League, compete with the likes of Manchester City and Liverpool and Manchester United and Arsenal. They have to be able to break that wage structure and be able to pay the big funds, because that's what attracts the best players. It's simple as that, and I'm interested to see if they can get out of this PSR hell, and that's the next step that they take, because we saw it with Isak. They made promises to him about like training grounds and new stadiums and increase in wages and better signings, and they clearly just didn't live up to those promises that they made when they originally signed Isak. And Isak kind of looked around and just said that, like, you made me these promises, it hasn't happened, I want out of here. They obviously got a great fee for him, but they haven't got any player anywhere close to his quality back in. So yeah, Newcastle, very interesting situation. I'm super interested to see what happens in the summer with them and where they go from here, and if they are capable of really taking that leap and turning the top 6 into a top 7, or maybe even replacing Tottenham in that top 6. It's going to be interesting to watch on that. Finally then, let's talk Manchester United. Another good win. Obviously, they were lucky. They were awful in the first half. Obviously, it was a nice header from Lacroix to put Palace 1-0 up. Lenny Yoro just kind of showed his inexperience there again, kind of got into a tussling match with him, lost that, and left Lacroix wide open to head that home. Obviously, Palace, they were just solid then after that. They didn't create too many chances. They didn't look amazing, but Manchester United looked awful. Diego Dallo was having one of his games where he just got his head up his ass and like everything's just going badly. Misplaced passes, overruns, everything was just wrong from Diego Dallo. Really poor performance from him. Then we get a bit of luck. Lacroix gets into a bad position. Yeah, I can see the arguments why people are saying it's a bit ridiculous Manchester United got a penalty for that. I think that's fair. But I also would say that the red card is probably fair, because regardless of if it was in the box or outside the box, Cunha was through on goal and he had a great chance of scoring. So I think the red card is fair, but maybe the penalty is a bit of a dubious one. And of course, Manchester United take advantage. Bruno Fernandes scores. They kind of get in their groove then a bit. And then Fernandes, fantastic ball into the box. Sesko heads home. Great to see him getting another goal. Great to see him scoring another different type of goal. And that's the most exciting thing about Sesko. Obviously, I was one of the guys that really said it's time for him to start a game. It's time for him to get the starting role and see if he can reciprocate what he has been doing as a substitute. And for the most part, it was kind of an iffy game for him. Didn't have too many great chances. Was a bit awkward sometimes with his touches. I mean, there was a lot of times during the game where I noticed Matheus Cunha was getting really frustrated with Sesko, sometimes for not playing him the ball, for sometimes some of his loose touches, and it was a bit awkward for him. But then he finally got that chance. Bruno Fernandes, of course, delivered that pass, that cross, and he headed it home, and it was a fantastic header. And like I said, the most exciting thing about Benjamin Sesko as a Manchester United fan is the fact that he's scoring all these different kinds of goals. It's not just tap-ins, it's not just scrappy goals, it's headers, it's being the last piece on a great counter-attack, it's intuitive finishing, it's just all-round quality, it's one touch and bang, it's a little bit of everything. And that's why I'm kind of willing to kind of let myself get a bit more carried away than maybe I was when Højlund kind of had his little run in the second half of his first season. Because a lot of his goals were scrappier. The only really quality finish I remember in the Premier League was that one against Aston Villa, which was obviously a lovely one to complete a 3-2 comeback. But outside of that he didn't have that variety in his goals like we've seen from Sesko. And obviously that this will be complete bullshit if Sesko kind of turns into yet another Højlund and really can't sustain that position as a striker and sustain that goal scoring for him. He's obviously on a great run right now, and it's fantastic to see. And hopefully he continues. I don't see why he won't start against Newcastle in the week. And maybe Manchester United, like I would have been, I'm still pretty scared about going to St James's Park. I don't know how much faith I have in Manchester United being able to get the job done, but we're obviously going and facing Newcastle at a really difficult time for them. So hopefully, maybe we can take advantage of that. But again, Bruno Fernandes, I think, just deserves so much credit. Obviously, no one was good for Manchester United in the first half, but you could just see the little flashes from him. Obviously, had that free kick tipped over the bar by Henderson, and was just kind of right on the edge of creating something or delivering something for Manchester United. And the commentary team I had over here, obviously, I'm in America, so I was on Peacock, and it was Clinton Morrison and Martin Tyler, and Morrison just kept referring to the fact that if Manchester United are going to do something here, it's going to be Fernandes, and that proved to be the case. Obviously, scored the penalty, set up the goal for Sesko, and just his all-round quality on the ball, like that chance that he set up for Amad Diallo was so impressive. That was almost another great goal that they got. Like, he really just is the difference maker. He is the orchestrator for Manchester United and the coach on the pitch. Like, when you watch it, when the game's kind of slowed down a little bit and you're able to just kind of watch the way he coaches and telling everyone who they need to pass to and telling everyone where they need to go, it really is unbelievable to watch. And again, it's just another sign of like the ridiculousness that I have in my head about like saying how much Manchester United need to sell him. Because as much as sometimes it's easy to say when you see kind of the negative attitude he has towards the refs and the complaining sometimes, I really don't know where Manchester United would be without him, and I really don't know what Manchester United are going to do to try and replace him. He's always there, always doing his thing, and just everything that he does on the field. I think I've underappreciated him, and I think this season has really made me appreciate him more. But yeah, another good win for Carrick, but we can see the signs of the honeymoon period kind of coming to an end. Hopefully you continue to get the results, but I think the most important thing that Manchester United's board need to realise is they can't just be nicer to him because he's a legend. They can't just give him the job because he's a legend. They have to fully believe in his style of play, in his philosophy, if they're going to give him a job. It can't be anything to do with the fact that he used to play for Manchester United. They have to go with the manager that they believe has the best philosophy, has the best chance of getting Manchester United back to their very best, and is most likely to deliver the style of football that Manchester United has always strived to deliver. That's the biggest thing when it comes to hiring the next manager. Maybe that will be Carrick, maybe not, but the fact that he's a Manchester United legend cannot come into their thinking at all, in my opinion. But yeah, that's about it. Another great week. Match week 28 in the books. And we don't have to wait too long for match week 29. Midweek fixtures coming up. A lot of crucial games for a lot of teams. A lot of crucial games at the bottom of the league, at the top of the league, in the race for European and Champions League places. Premier League, it never stops. And we'll be back here discussing it all on the Hand of Gaine.